What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/PettyRevenge. This story's called, My Aunt Talks Crap About My Family and I Make Her Think She's Going to Be Paralyzed Forever. I never told anyone this until now, so I just want to share this here. My aunt is a big Karen, so we'll just call her Karen. She feels so entitled to everything. She gossips around, backstabs everyone, and used to physically abuse her children. Not anymore since all her children are adults and have moved out. She still verbally abuses them though. Anyway, I am now an anesthesiologist. Karen just so happens to need surgery, and she wanted me to give her anesthesia. I don't know about other doctors, but in our country, we'd sort of avoid doing any procedure on a family member. This is so that if complications occur, you're free of guilt. So I told her I'd recommend someone else, but she insisted that I do it so that she doesn't have to pay for my professional fee. Private doctors, anesthesiologists, are paid an average of $150 to $300 or more in my country. I still didn't want to until my cousin, Karen's daughter, talked me into it. Apparently, Karen was bad-mouthing me, saying I was so stuck up that I didn't want to do it. So I finally said yes. A week before Karen's procedure, I visited my grandfather. His caretakers told me that Karen always came by and was again talking crap about me and my family. I talked to my grandfather and he gave me a talking to about how I wanted Karen to pay me $300 as my professional fee for her surgery. She's my aunt, even though I never said it out loud. I never intended on asking her to pay me. At that time, my hate for her went up a notch. Now, just a little background on anesthesia. There's this kind of anesthesia called epidural anesthesia. We tape a thin tube on your back called an epidural catheter, and we continuously give drugs through it to extend the anesthesia's effect. It numbs half of your body from the chest down to your feet, so you can't move or feel the lower half of your body. The average time for this anesthesia is about 2 to 3 hours, but we can extend it for as long as we want. The other good thing about this is we can give pain medications through the catheter for better pain relief. So before the procedure, I tell Karen I'll be giving her epidural anesthesia and explain that she won't be able to move her lower half of her body for 2 to 3 hours. I also explain a very rare complication where she won't be able to move her legs at all, even after the anesthesia loses its effect. Basically, she can get paralyzed for months or years or forever. So the operation was a success, and we move her to the recovery room. I told her I'll check up on her every hour or so until she's ready to move back to her own room. Basically, we wait for the anesthesia to wear off. We usually know this when patients can raise their legs without problems. I go back into the operating room for other patients needing to be put under. Not even 5 minutes after, the nurse tells me that Karen wants to talk to me. I tell the nurse to tell Karen I'm busy and that I'll look into her later. Nurse comes back saying Karen was being a Karen, yelling that I was her niece and that I had the responsibility to see her this instant. At first, I wanted to make her wait, but the nurse told me that other patients in the recovery room were complaining. I looked for someone to take over for me at the operating room and went to see Karen. She wanted to go back to her room. I told her she can go back once she's able to raise her legs, which will be about 1 to 2 hours more. And I tell her I'm doing another operation, so she'll have to wait for me to see her next time. I'm not gone for 10 minutes, and again, Karen was yelling for me. I see her and say the same thing. This happens again and again, and I get fed up and decide to screw with her a bit. The nurse is also irritated, so I tell the nurse my plan. Basically, so the nurse won't rat me out to my superiors. I had Karen move to the corner of the room to give her more privacy, but mostly to separate her from other patients. After an hour, I go back to Karen and tell her I'm giving her pain medications through the catheter, but I was actually giving her another dose of anesthesia so she won't be able to move her legs for another 2 hours. I do this a number of times, so she's at the recovery room for 8 hours now. She's starting to panic because patients are now in and out of the recovery room, but she's still in there and still isn't able to move or feel her legs. I talk to her and tell her that I'm considering that she's one of the rare cases of paralysis complications, but we need to observe her first. So now she's crying, saying she doesn't deserve this and blah blah blah. I reassure her, but still continue to give her anesthesia doses. I tell Karen that she'll need to get tests if she still can't move her legs. This is to confirm if it's because of the anesthesia. She's crying again and is threatening to sue me. I told her that she signed a consent form before the procedure stating that she understood and accepted the risks and complications of the anesthesia, so she can't sue me. I was on 24-hour duty, so this is okay for me since I'll be spending the night in the operating room anyway. I do this all night until the morning before my shift ends. I wake up and see her still crying, and this time, I didn't give her another dose of anesthesia. I figured she'd had enough. After an hour, she was able to raise her legs and we move her back to her room. Not much of a revenge, but I hope she reflected on her life while being paralyzed. Man, I didn't realize anesthesiologists can freaking play God up in here. That's kind of like those stories of people dying and then they're not allowed to move on until they fix stuff from their past or something like that. You know what I'm talking about, like those Christmas TV specials that everyone loves. I love Christmas, by the way. Christmas is amazing. Anyway, sorry, that was irrelevant, but this was pretty freaking good revenge. I'm not entirely sure how ethical or even legal this is, but pretty good read. This story's called Won't Lock the Door to the Room, Enjoy Having It Empty. So this was a few years ago during my freshman year in college. I had worked hard in high school to save up enough cash to buy 2 TVs, a PS4, speakers, kitchen utensils and plates, a futon, and a few other smaller items. The college I went to had suite-style living, where each roommate got his own individual room. There were 4 of us, so we had 4 rooms, 2 bathrooms, a small kitchen, and a great room or main room. Since I was the first one who moved in, I got unpacked and settled in, making sure to leave plenty of room for everyone to unpack and claim space in the bathrooms and other common areas. I set up one TV, the larger one, in the great room with my PS4 so we could all enjoy it. And I put all my utensils and plates in the kitchen so we could use those as well. I didn't mind sharing my stuff up to this point since I like to share and put my faith in others. However, I wouldn't be posting here if this trusting nature of mine wasn't changed. On to the story. One night, a drunk college kid came barging into our room screaming at the top of his lungs, waking me up. I was about to get out of bed until one roommate, the slob of the group, ran out and kicked him to the hallway. Since I left a lot of expensive items in the great room for us to use, this made me fear anyone could walk in and steal my stuff, and that would be the last I would have seen of them. So I asked my roommates to lock the door if no one else was home, and we agreed on it. It worked for a few days until I noticed I walked in and no one was home, but the door wasn't locked. Granted, they would go to a few friends' dorm across the hall, but they had gone out for almost 5 hours. I asked them again, but they blew me off. A 1-3 vote doesn't work too well at the college I attended as far as roommate agreements went, so there was nothing I could do. Anyway, there were 3 more instances of dumb young freshmen walking into our dorm and either yelling or passing out on our couch with just the TV on and nothing on it. The straw that broke the camel's back was when I noticed my dishes I was sharing were in the trash, along with some stainless steel utensils. As I looked around, I also saw one of the 4 controllers I had was smashed and under the couch, and my remote was totally lost. Never knew what happened to it after all these years. I finally asked them once more to lock the door and tried to respect my things I shared with them, but they blew me off and said, "It's not like you use them. It's basically ours anyway." With this, I got petty, and I mean petty. I started my revenge when they went off to get beer since they wanted to play a new Call of Duty game. Can't remember which title. I first started with moving my TV and PS4 into my room along with everything else I had out there, as well as my futon, which we used as a second couch. It took me about 30 minutes of hard labor, but I finally had a packed dorm room. But man, it looked awesome. But that's my petty part. Time for the revenge. After another 20 minutes, they returned with a whole group and they were stoked to play the new Call of Duty. Until they noticed the entire great room empty, save for the couch and TV stand. I decided to leave before they got back, but I was receiving calls and texts for almost an hour asking where I was and where all the stuff went. I decided to keep quiet and allow them to embarrass themselves in front of their friends. Not only that, but they confronted me on a few occasions to get me to surrender my items, or else they'd have to pay for new ones out of pocket. None of them worked and sponged off all the snacks I bought for myself, which were now safe under my bed. I merely said, "Oh, sorry, but they are now locked behind my room, since that's the only door that is locked in this whole place. I told you, I won't share it if it isn't behind a locked room, but now it is." They were very unhappy and spent way more than I did on my items, since I got go back to school sales and work discounts on all my items. I probably paid nearly $1,400 on everything I bought, and they paid nearly $2,100 to get back everything I had shared, and they had to split it all up at the end of the school year. I can say one thing for certain. It is fun to see 3 guys fight over a PS4 and a large TV, since they all chipped in to pay for them. Anyways, that's my petty revenge in the first post under this thread. Hope you enjoyed the read. Edit! Wow, I had no idea I would get so many upvotes and want to answer some questions. I've seen a lot of you saying I should have played dumb when they were asking about my stuff disappearing, which they honestly thought they were entitled to anyway. I was pretty quiet as a freshman and I used to hate confrontation, and one roommate was a bit of a thug with some thug-like friends. And I honestly had no intention of getting involved with that. But they were indeed moochers, and I have a plethora of more stories about them. Not revenge, but more of how they left the place and how I was more like a housekeeper rather than a roommate, since I hate dirty rooms. A little bit of a neat freak, I know. Every single roommate story I've ever read has always been a bad one, so I want y'all in the comments below to prove to me that not all roommates are bad and you can have some good ones. And if I ever potentially need a roommate, then you can prove to me there's a chance I can find a good one that's not nasty and thievy and inconsiderate, just all these people. This story's called, Maybe the Customer Is Always Right. I found this sub because of my boy r/Hi Hugo! So I think this belongs here. I used to work at a place that sold burgers and ice cream. I quit because the manager had a favoritism problem, but that's a different story. I was a cook, and our restaurant was unique in the fact that the kitchen was openly visible to the customers, as we had a big counter that we called out people's orders and delivered food at. This was a magnet for entitled people. Let's just say no one came back to the counter to compliment the food. People would complain about the food to my face often. One day, after a couple of months of starting work, an older couple came in and ordered a single order of small cheese curds. Technically, we were supposed to level off a small measuring cup of curds before cooking them, but I found the small cup for curds way too small, so I usually just eyeballed it. I saw this couple had only ordered a small to split between the two of them, so I, being a nice, benevolent minimum wage burger flipper, gave them some extra. I called the couple's number and they came to the counter. The lady, who will be called Karen, looked at the basket of curds like it was something vile and said, "Is this the small size?" I explained to her that it wasn't quite a large, but I did top her off with a little extra. Karen looked at me like I had spit in the food and said, "Actually, we would like this to go now." Like she didn't want to be in the restaurant anymore. I put the food in a to-go bag, and as the couple was leaving, she sneered at me, her voice oozing sarcasm. "Have a great night." I told my coworker what happened and that I was confused. He told me that sometimes people get offended when given more food than they ordered, like they were being pitied or something. I shrugged it off and continued work as usual. Enter the petty revenge. A few months later, I was working a late shift when I saw a single order of cheese curds pop up on the screen. I looked into the dining area and, sure enough, it was the same couple. So I did what any good employee would do. I filled the order, I took the measuring cup and scooped the curds in, and then proceeded to level it off perfectly. I took extra care in making sure that it was exactly a small cheese curds. Once cooked, they were only 7 cheese curds to split between 2 people. I called out the order number and gave them the tray with my best smile. "Enjoy!" The couple looked at the pitiful amount of curds in the basket. Karen gave a sheepish, "Thanks," and they took the tray to a table. I watched for the next few minutes as the couple finished the tray very quickly, and just sort of sat there for a while after. I giggled to myself the whole time. I know that it's not that glamorous or interesting, but I think it was pretty petty, and it felt good to stand up for myself a bit. After all, the customer is always right. That's a cute story. Like, haha, I'll give you exactly what you ordered. It's cute. It's cute. OP Redditor person, you're cute. Alright, this story's called Sent My Neighbor a Glitter Bomb Because He Was a Richard Head to Me. I teach kids online, so naturally I have to be on the phone or video chatting with them. I'm working one day and my neighbor decides to start blasting music and I instantly can't hear my student anymore. So I go outside to ask him to turn it down. He has a speaker on his front step just cranked all the way up. Here's how the exchange went. Excuse me, can you turn down your music? I'm on the phone with a student and your music is a little loud. Him, surly, right off the bat. So, I'm on the phone. I can't hear my student. So, I'm trying to do my job. I'm working. So can you please turn your music down? Yeah, I'm freaking doing it. Get back to your house. He was confrontational and angry from the second I started talking and clearly had no intention of turning it down, so I just walked away, and as I'm walking away, he was like, "You want to do it like that? I'll freaking do it like that." I was just so baffled that this guy would be such a butthole for literally no reason immediately. I'm trying to do my goddamn job and he hurt my feelings, so screw that guy. I mailed him a homemade glitter bomb. I folded it up and glued the edges so he'll have to pull it open and the glitter will explode everywhere. And they posted a picture of it, and it says, suck my balls. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.